This is an example of a single-sided board. As you can see, on one side we have the components. Here the capacitors, the resistors, and all of the other components are on this side. And on the back side, there's no components. The only thing we have is the copper cladding, or the foil, which is the artwork which has been imprinted on the circuit board. You can also see all of the soldering of the components on this side. So this is a single-sided board. Typically, boards like this are found in consumer electronic devices. Going back to the other side, the only other thing that we need to see here is the Silkscreen Markings. The brand name or the model number, information about the component reference designators, and outlines of the components, all of that are done with ink on the component side. So this is a single-sided board, components only on one side, and the foil side and the artwork is on the back side. The next board is a double-sided board. This board has copper traces and copper cladding on both sides. And you can see here are the traces connecting different components. You can see the components here on this side. And then if I flip it on the back side, we can also see that we do have traces and we do have components on the other side. So this is a double-sided board with components on both sides. The next board is a double-sided board. This board has copper cladding originally on both sides, on the top side and bottom side. This one is a board which contains both surface mount components, like this chip here is a surface mount, and all of these other little resistors and surface mount capacitors are soldered on the top side. If you look carefully, you can see traces, copper traces on the top side, very fine traces on the top side. And also on this board we do have a through-hole component. This is a socket where a through-hole component will be inserted, and when I flip this on the back side, we'll see that on the reverse side, first of all, there are no components, and the only thing we see is just the traces. You can see the copper traces here of all of the artwork, and this is the back side of the through-hole component, and you can see the leads sticking out and the soldering, and all of these other solder connections that you see over here, which is on the bottom side of the surface mount components. These are actually vias. These are connections from the top layer to the bottom layer, and we'll talk more about this later on. This next board is a more complicated and more sophisticated board. This is a double-sided board, 2 layers, and it has components on the top side and bottom side. On the top side, you can see here these components: an integrated circuit, capacitors, a crystal. You can see the traces down here, very small traces. You can see traces over here connecting to the fingers of the board. You can also see the ground planes here, these large surface areas where the copper has not been removed. These are ground planes. And if I flip this on the other side, we'll see that on the back side, not only we have copper traces and we have copper lands, we also have components. We have surface mount components placed throughout the back side. So most of the newer boards, to accommodate everything into a smaller package, they do have components on both sides. So this is a double-sided board with components on both sides.